time for another edition of the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview. I am Gino Buccola alongside a very good friend of mine that I'm excited to welcome to the show, Scott Shapiro. Scott, I got to bounce in my step because we get to talk about some really good races this weekend. I'd say two of the horses that we're talking about might be on the short list of some of the best horses in training right now in North America.
Without question, and good to join you again, particularly on the SportsGrid. Shout out to everybody out there. Looking forward to this myself, not only because of the good racing, but the good company. So, yeah, excited to dive in. I know who you're talking about in terms of those top two horses, but I don't know if I should spoil it for others.
Well, we will be previewing three races in this show, two of them out at Del Mar. We'll start out with the best betting race, probably the most competitive race, which is going to be the Bing Crosby. That's going to be the 10th race on Saturday at Del Mar. Then we'll get into the 8th race, which is the San Diego, where Nisos is going to be the headliner. We'll finish things up with the Jim Dandy, with the Kentucky Derby and the Belmont winner, Sovereignty. He's back this weekend. So some really nice horses to discuss. And Scott, I want to mention before we get into our race preview, for some of the folks that are watching, we have a really cool tool right now with DRF, and it's the DRF AI that all of you can get involved with. It's free all the way throughout the Saratoga meet. So if you're someone who, maybe you've heard some of the racing terminology, maybe you're not someone who knows horse racing all that much, this will be really helpful to you. Sit around, play around with it, ask it some questions, see if it can lead you in the right direction, which is what me and Scott are going to try to do right now, Scotty, as we head on out to Del Mar. You and I hung out at Del Mar a few years back. We used to do some seminars down there in the mornings. That's where you and I became good buddies. Let's see if we can lead the folks to a winner here with a really good Bing Crosby. I mean, I thought you could make a case for like 5 or 6 different horses in this field, Scott. We start out with the one Crazy Mason. You kind of know what you're going to get from this guy. He's a deep closer. He needs them to go fast up front, and if they do, he will come flying. And he comes out of a race where he ran third behind two very nice horses, Bookham Dano and Mulligan, who came back to finish first and second in their next start.
Yeah, Crazy Mason is a cool horse. And shout out to David Jerkins, the race VP of racing or racing secretary, the guy that writes the races at Del Mar. To get a horse like Crazy Mason out west is very cool. I know it's a grade 1, but you just don't see a lot of shippers from east to west like this. And this is a cool horse. You mentioned it, race shape dependent. But the True North, I mean, those are two of the best sprinters in the country right now that he ran third to. And prior to that, the Carter was definitely a step down in quality, but he came with that strong late run. So I don't know if the pace is going to be there for him. Tough task for Christopher Elliott, who will ship out with Crazy Mason, but he certainly can finish, Gino.
You feel like you'd love him a little more at 6.5 furlongs or 7 furlongs, right? The flat 6 furlongs might just be a little tough for him to get up. Scott, Dr. Venkman is solid in this field. He's won all 3 of his career races at Del Mar, and most recently he was second behind a rival in this race, Roll On Big Joe, but it was a good effort from Dr. Venkman. He'll go third start of his form cycle. A lot of times that's when horses can run their best, and he feels just like a horse who wants them to go quick and he can come running, but he won't have to be as far back as Crazy Mason.
Exactly right. And I do think the pace will be honest enough in here. I just don't know if it'll be cutthroat. And Dr. Venkman, a little bit of a tough read, but the one thing for sure is he's kept very good company. Last time out, you mentioned the second place effort in the Kelly's Landing. He didn't have a great trip that day. Had a little bit of issues kind of navigating his way through the stretch. Maybe he should have won the race still if he was the best horse, but I thought it was enough to kind of forgive him a little. Losing to Nisos in the start before off the bench, didn't lose much in defeat there. And then he's got a couple of two-turn races before it. I just think he's going to sit a really good trip here, and he's 3 for 4 over this oval.
Hijazi was a very highly regarded Bob Baffert horse a couple years ago. He just had about a year and a half off, but when he showed back up, he ran pretty well, Scott, in his first start in almost a year and a half. He sort of ran like a horse who needed the race. He loomed up, and then he just got a little bit tired late. He did lose to Mabognik, who's also in this field. But I think if I was going to take one of those two horses out of the race, I'd probably prefer Hijazi, who was making his first start in a long layoff. And I could expect him stepping forward off of that race.
Yeah, I can see that side of things. I think Bob Baffert off the layoff generally has his horses cranked and would have expected this one to kind of finish the deal that day. But you can forgive. My problem with this horse is 5 seconds in 10 starts. I think he's a little bit camera shy, but $3.5 million New York bred running in California.
We move to Smooth Cruisin'. I thought he was a little bit of a tough read, Scott. He's coming out of a 4-horse field in the Triple Bend. He was a well-beaten third. And his best career race came on a sloppy racetrack. So that might be where he actually excels when there's a little bit of wetness in the track.
Also had Lasix that day, will not get the
Yep.
anti-bleeding medication in here. They were 4 across the track in the Triple Bend. I don't think that's his ideal trip. I think his best chance is kind of to try to sit off a little further and try to pick up some pieces because I think he's up against it from a win end.
This next horse was one of the trickier reads for me, world record, because on paper, I really like him. I think he fits really well. He's got a lot of speed. He can sit off the pace a little bit. His last race on May the 31st at Churchill, it was a little bit weird. He was involved in like a really fast pace. Then it looked like he was going to win early in the stretch. And then he got run down by a horse who was kind of battling it out with him early on. I kind of kept going back and forth with him, Scott. Like he certainly is good enough to win this race. I wonder if maybe he gets overbet a little because of Flavian Pratt, who's one of the top jockeys who definitely takes a lot of money. But I mean, I'm kind of hemming and hawing. I didn't really know what to do with this horse. Help me out with world record.
Well, I'm fond of this horse to an extent, but I think it's a tough task as we've seen, and why probably a lot of guys don't ship out west and stay at home. This is a big ask to come off the layoff. Then I think the biggest question you mentioned is his speed, but he's drawn between horses that I think want to be prominent as well in Hijazi and Roll On Big Joe and Mabobnik. I think I'm saying that right. So
Yeah,
I don't know. Trip is a little bit concerning for me. If he's going to take a lot of money, I think I'm going to side against him, and I am expecting him, like you said, to take a lot of support.
we all have the horses that we remember from some of our big scores. This was mine earlier this year. Roll On Big Joe helped me in a coast to coast win, Scott. So I will always love this guy. And he continues to win races. There have been 2 or 3 times in a row where I thought, okay, this is going to be the ceiling for him. And then he still gets the job done. He can sit off a little bit. He can finish. He's just a really honest horse who's in very good form right now.
He sure is. He's hard to knock. He's 7 for 18, the opposite of Ajazi, has a nose for the wire. If I'm trying to knock him, maybe you could say his 2 best efforts of his career recently are at Churchill. He's 0 for 2 at Del Mar. And then the 6.5 versus 6 might be a little bit of a difference. Interesting. Julian Leparoux making the trip out there. He's a major player. He's hard to knock.
Bognick was a grade 1 winner in Chile. He was grade 3 placed in North America. He comes off of a really big race where he defeated Hijazi. But I think when you look back at some of his earlier form, he was behind Roll On Big Joe like 4 or 5 different times throughout his career. I'm not sure if he's going to get the trip he needs in here in Mabognick, but I'm not going to knock his last effort, and he moves into a really good barn, the John Sadler barn.
Yeah, we've seen this move before too, where they claim for a high number, him and Horonis, and they move up into a stakes race immediately and have success. I agree with you. This horse probably up against it from a win end to win right back. Maybe the outside draw will benefit. He is also 0 for 3 over this racetrack, though.
We moved to Spirit of Machina. He was so good early in his career, Scott. He won 4 of his first 5 races, a multiple graded stakes winner, but then he started having some physical issues because it was forcing him to miss time. He's now 0 for his last 5, and you see a lot of layoff lines.
Yeah, tough one to get behind here. I think a couple of years ago would have been easier to support him. If you're looking for reasons to like this 7-year-old, he moves outside, he cuts back half a furlong. Maybe that benefits him, but he's nowhere near the same horse.
Another 7-year-old rounds out the field in Lovesick Blues. He has run 40 times, 8 wins. Very cool horse. He's multiple graded stakes placed on the turf. But Scott, he hasn't really been at this level on the dirt. That's my biggest concern for him.
Feels like he's going to get caught in chase mode as more of a turf horse at this time. His trainer, Labrado Baracio's had a good year, but he's just 8 for 108 at Del Mar over the last 3 years. I think Lovesick Blues is one of the least likely winners.
And as we move to selections, I thought what make this race tough, Scott, is I could see different things happening, different versions of this race. A lot of horses who are kind of competitive and not necessarily like stand out above each other. So it's to me a race I'd have to use a few in like a pick 4 or pick 5. I'm going to put Big Joe on top 6-3-2-1. Tell us how you stack this race up.
I understand you going with Roll On Big Joe. I'm going to hope the pace is a little bit livelier. Dr. Venkman can save ground early, angle out late, and come with a big run like he has a few times at Del Mar. So it's Dr. Venkman for me.
Let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll move back and we'll talk about the Grade 2 San Diego on Saturday at Del Mar.
Shamar Stewart is having troubles before he even plays a snap. And he's seeing what's happened to the stars of this football team, by the way, right? The Higgins stuff wasn't super smooth. The Hendrickson stuff's not smooth.
But why pay him that big number where you've got Trey Henderson, who's an absolute superstar at edge? You always build a defense. Why haven't the Bengals been back to the Super Bowl in the last 4 years? It's real simple.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Y'all know where I'm going. And yeah, you can call it Knicks bias all you want. I'm taking the Knicks to come out of the East. I look at this New York team and think that Mike Brown is an upgrade over Tom Thibodeau. You may disagree. I don't care. I look at the fact of getting Yabusele and Clarkson off the bench is going to make the Knicks more dangerous.
Betting above the rim only on SportsGrid.
Your approach with Marion Hampton is, if you're going to draft him aggressively and early, you better be patient, because it might take half a season before he really takes over this backfield, and it might never happen this year, depending on how Harris performs. Gadsden and Disley so far not fantasy relevant at this time. Again, a more run-heavy offense. Hampton and Najee Harris, very intriguing, but the ADP, I think, on both of them is slightly off.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
Eric Skubal, another incredible performance. I mean, almost going 7-8 innings again, striking out a ton. I mean, I kind of felt like the Tigers really wanted that win.
There's a bit of narrative to it that people like to buy into, or, kind of, I don't want to say push a narrative, but the fact that he's doing what he did last year, but better, and is now in a spot to repeat, like, there's something to be said.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Back here on the weekend preview, we're going to move from race number 10, which was a bigger field, probably a better betting race, back to race number 8, which is the Grade 2 San Diego on Saturday. Still a really important race, though, Scott, because this is traditionally a prep race for the Pacific Classic, which is one of the biggest races of the meet at Del Mar. And we get to see Nisos, who is one of the better horses in training right now in North America. Let's meet the field here for the Grade 2 San Diego, race 8 on Saturday at Del Mar. The number 1 Midnight Mammoth is a speed horse, Scott. I will say his last couple races, he's been pretty impressive. The 2-back race in April didn't really shock me. It was a small field. He was able to kind of get the lead and pour it on. But in this race, he really battled with a nice horse named Skippy Longstocking, and now he has run back-to-back career best races. So while I don't necessarily know if Midnight Mammoth gets the race shape or if he's as good as some of the others in here, he's in great form, career best form right now.
Yeah, he's hard to knock off of those last two, like you said. The maybe 2-back, a little bit insignificant over a wet, fast surface. The one thing, though, mile and a 16th, which is today's distance, and most of his other best races are at a little bit longer. So maybe it tells that he can handle the sharpness of this race, although I do think the customers and the ones up front of maybe ahead of him or you'll be battling with early, a lot better than the ones he beat 2-back.
Agree. We move to Nisos. He's run 5 times in his career. He's won 4 of them. And the only time he lost, he finished second. And that was in his first start after, I think, a 16-month layoff where he really needed the race. And in that race when he ran second, Scott, it was the Churchill Downs. We've seen that race be a really strong race so far. The winner, Mindframe, has come back out of that race to win the Stephen Foster. Bookham Dano and Mulliken were in that race. They have both come back to win. They have both come back to run well. Bookham Dano has beat Mulliken multiple times since then. Even horses like Banishing, who was in that race, has come back to win. It was just a strong group. You don't really have many knocks on Nisos, but as a bettor, we have to poke holes in horses like this that will be really short prices. He's never gone this far, so he'll have to show us he can get a mile and a 16th, which, talented. He's very talented. He should be able to, but we always want to poke holes in horses that will be a short price. So he has to prove that he can do this.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I remember after the Churchill Downs kind of thinking, wow, blanket finishes, those usually don't come back great, after it. Well, I think I got beat 3 or 4 times trying to beat those horses, and I'm finally done. That said, it's to your point, though, with Nisos. You know he's the best horse. He's the most likely winner, but there's enough questions in here. The distance, Third off the layoff should benefit, but really it's just the distance and whether he wants to go that far still in his career. We thought he was a two-turn horse. I don't know. He's the clear one to beat, but he's going to be impossible to bet given any variables that we have mentioned.
Completely agree. And even one other small thing with Midnight Mammoth to his inside and then right to his outside, Miramati, those are both speed horses. And he could maybe get caught up trying to go a little faster early on than he would like if he's right next to both of them. Miramati's a tricky horse, Scott. I do kind of like him that he's an old-fashioned horse. You just know what you're going to get from him. He wants the lead. If he doesn't get the lead, he doesn't really run very well. But if he gets the lead and he can clear off, he's really capable of big races. Now, when he stepped up and faced Graded Stakes Company the last couple times, he's been a little bit overmatched. So he's also not run his best races at Del Mar.
Yeah, he's tough for me to get behind because of the reasons you mentioned, even though we know what we're going to get from him. And the fact that there's speed, it's very unlikely he's loose on the lead here. It is interesting, though. He is the stablemate of Niso, so it's very unlikely that those two, with experienced jockeys and Flavian Pratt and Juan Hernandez, are going to duel each other into defeat.
We move to Express Train. He's an 8-year-old. He actually won this race back in 2021. I have no idea what you and I were doing back in 2021, Scott. I cannot remember. He's 0 for his last 8, though, and his last win was in March of 2022. But I will say, most recently, he ran one of the better races that he's run over the last few years, and he is a horse who really likes Del Mar. He's won 3 times in the past year.
He has. That's the one thing that I'm going to give him a little bit more of a look for, because I do think he's clearly slowed down. Yeah, he ran a solid, well-beaten second to Locked in a race where Locked ran one of the fastest races of the year. I think his best case is to hope that he still has it at Del Mar and he can pass some horses along the way. I think winning this race is going to be a tough one for Express Train to do.
Yep, and I think you hit the key. It feels like he'll be able to pass maybe half the field. If the race goes fast enough early, then maybe he's one of those horses who you upgrade and who will benefit most if they come closing late. Scott, we have our personal favorite type horses, and one of mine that I can't quit is Hall of Fame. I think there's a bigger race for there in there than we've seen from him, and he's a really interesting horse shipping out here, coming into the McCarthy barn for the first time, just getting out west. I know that his foundation over the last year has been pretty solid. I just don't know if he's ever really beaten that many good horses. He's outfinished Sierra Leone. He hasn't really won races where there are great horses in there, but I feel like it's an interesting spot for him here. What do you think about Hall of Fame?
I feel like I thought this horse was going to be good for far too long, kind of the opposite of you. I kind of really remember the Asmussen barn loving this 1.4 million as he went into the Derby prep season a year ago. And he just hasn't lived up to expectations. Coming back off a layoff, I thought he was going to be one of the best horses in training. Hasn't happened. Maybe Michael McCarthy and the trip out west can make him better.
Race that he's coming out of has actually been pretty strong, with Antiquarian finishing second next out and Post Time winning next out. Tarantino is multiple graded stakes placed. He wants to be in the mix early, Scott, but he's not coming into this race off of a couple good races.
No, I think his best chance would be on the lead. I don't know if he has the same speed as he used to. And if Nisos and or Miramati want the lead, he's just not as fast as them. So to me, what is Edwin Maldonado going to do? Well, you can expect him to likely send, but I don't think he's fast enough to keep up.
From a gambling-based standpoint, we round out the field with Judge Miller. He's one of the more interesting horses to me, just from a betting standpoint. Because if he's floats up and he's a decent price, we know he has good races, but he comes off of a really poor performance, Scott, where he just never really got into it. He was bumped at the start and a little bit of traffic. I think you like this horse a little bit today on Saturday, though, right?
I do, from a wagering perspective. I can toss the Hanshin. Mark Glatt's barn did not perform well out in Kentucky during that weekend there, the closing weekend. He's got some upside still. It's a reach. I'll need the right price, but I think Judge Miller does have the upside to maybe spring the upset.
We can move to selections for the San Diego. Scott, who just mentioned Judge Miller, has the 7 on top, 7-2-1-5 for Scott. I'll go to Hall of Fame, hoping that on the cutback, he can have a little more punch and he'll move into the McCarthy barn for the first time. So we take a quick commercial break. When we return, we'll talk about the Kentucky Derby and the Belmont winner, Sovereignty.
it was rich that you're talking about the fact that you don't know what the point of going out there and playing golf and winning golf tournaments when you've got guys who are pining, living in their cars, trying to make a cut, playing the DP tour, desperate just to be in an event, let alone have the ability to talk about winning an event and being like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Fulfill me. I'm not fulfilled as a golfer.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
Y'all know where I'm going. And yeah, you can call it Nick bias all you want. I'm taking the Knicks to come out of the East. I look at this New York team and think that Mike Brown is an upgrade over Tom Thibodeau. You may disagree. I don't care. I look at the fact of getting Yabusele and Clarkson off the bench is going to make the Knicks more dangerous.
Betting above the rim only on SportsGrid.
So Ramondu's already lost a ton of weight. That's great. He needs to stop fumbling the football. Trayvon Henderson, I think, is that playmaker you need. Then you got Stephon Diggs, Kyle Williams. We kind of talked about those guys. Those are the two investable wide receivers. Hunter Henry, I think in a deeper league, is probably your tight end 13 or 14. He's right on the fringe. But I think a good situation here for the New England Patriots.
Fantasy sports today only on SportsGrid.
This is interesting. Minus 116s, minus 120s in the marketplace. We're seeing now minus 140s across the board and 6.5s on the total.
He's not a big strikeout pitcher. His metrics look terrible, but he somehow seemingly get 5 innings, 6 innings, only 1 earned run. It's because he's a super ground ball pitcher, induces that soft and medium contact. He can essentially sap the power away from the Dodgers.
Pro baseball today only on SportsGrid.
For the final segment, we're going to head over to Saratoga and talk about the Jim Dandy. Scott, it's not a big field, but we have some really interesting horses in here, including the Kentucky Derby winner and the Belmont winner, Sovereignty, who rounds out the field. But I do think you can make cases for a couple different horses in here, just sort of based on the running style, based on the fact that this is a prep race too. The big race is the Travers that a lot of these horses are trying to get to. So knowing Bill Mott, it wouldn't shock me if Sovereignty was maybe a little bit short trying to run a big race in the Travers. Let's meet the field here, Scott, and we'll start with Baeza, who was third in the Kentucky Derby, came back and ran third in the Belmont. In the Belmont, though, he did not look comfortable really from the beginning. Like he was a little bit rank. He just didn't really seem like himself. I was actually surprised he was able to finish third in that race. I think it just sort of shows the class that he has. He was nowhere near Sovereignty. And I think now, in having been defeated by Sovereignty in a couple different races, they have to try to change something. And I'm hoping that the plan for Baeza with the inside draw in a small field is to try to get into the race a lot earlier, because he did this earlier in his career, Baeza. So I'm hoping he can get in front of Sovereignty, try to get the jump on him. What do you think about this horse who's based on the West Coast, Baeza?
I think he's got a lot of talent, and he's just run into the top 2 3-year-olds that we've seen in many years here, I was hoping he ran with that style at the Belmont. You mentioned it just wasn't meant to be that day. If he has the speed in him, that's his chance to beat him. I'm just wondering if he still has it in him.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And as horses get a little older, sometimes they'll maybe develop more running styles, and he's just not been as fast out of the gate. We'll see if Hector Berrios, who's jumping aboard, can maybe plan to try to get him out of the gate quickly. Sandman was actually the second choice in the Kentucky Derby. He's a horse who's interesting. He just feels so forgotten about recently after earlier in the year where he was one of the top 3-year-olds. He's a horse who's a closer, Scott, but he's going to add the blinkers, so they will hope that maybe he can get a little bit closer in this race early and not have to come from way, way out of it. We're watching him in the Preakness where he runs third, and he was a fine third that day. I don't know what to do with him, really, because, he certainly has class, but he doesn't really feel like he's been in the stratosphere with Sovereignty.
That's pretty much the way I feel. I feel like he's beaten up the fields he's won. He's beaten up on lesser groups with good setups. He was always highly regarded. I remember he was huge steam on debut at Churchill last June. I think the blinkers is a recipe for disaster with a tappet that comes from off the pace, off a layoff. But Mark Cassie's won a few more races than me, so maybe I'm wrong about this one.
Yeah, and maybe he can, if we say he didn't like the slop at Churchill on the Kentucky Derby day, and you can eliminate that race, all of a sudden his overall form looks a little bit better. You don't see as many bad performances. It just in a small field, his running style, I'm a little bit worried. Scott, I mean, I could even see Mo Plex running really well in this race because there's no early speed in here, and he is definitely the proven speed. For those watching, you can see the projector, and they had the 3 Mo Plex way out in front, and a race that favors front runners.
Yeah, and this horse is 2 for 2 over this racetrack. You mentioned a prep potentially for Sovereignty, maybe even Baeza. You can even make the argument for Hill Road, who might want longer.
Yeah.
Moplex, this is his race. I don't think they're planning on a 1.25 miles
Really
at
good point.
Saratoga. He very well could be on the lead. I think he's up against it to win it, but I don't think he's up against it to maybe finish second or third at the very least.
Yeah, he's the one to catch. He won both starts at Saratoga, and he showed us he can get 1 mile and 1/8. We moved to Hill Road. He's a grade 3 winner. He finished 5th in the Belmont most recently. Do you think he can turn the tables on rival Sovereignty to his outside?
Not with this pace. Well, no, never with Sovereignty. I think he's 1 or 2 cuts below, but I think the race shape works against him as well. So hitting the board is going to be a challenge.
Sovereignty won the Derby, won the Belmont, skipped the Preakness. What was really scary about him, Scott, is that he sat a lot closer in the Belmont, which wasn't something he was doing earlier. So if he's growing up and maturing and now he's able to sit closer in races, that makes him very, very imposing. He'll be the heavy favorite. He's super deserving. The only kind of hole I could poke in him is I wonder, he did run really well on a sloppy track in the Derby, and then most recently in the Belmont was an off track. Maybe he took more to some of those off tracks than his competition. That would be my only concern. I don't really have any knocks on this horse. He's fantastic. He's the best 3-year-old right now, and he's the horse to beat.
Without question, I'm done trying to beat these top couple horses. I never tried to beat journalism, but I did try to beat Sovereignty. I just think they're multiple cuts above most of these horses, and they can beat these horses with their B race. It's not exciting from a wagering perspective, but Sovereignty going to be tough.
And as we finish up, we want to remind all of you that we have a really cool AI product right now. You can ask DRF AI anything you need when it comes to playing the races this weekend at Saratoga or at Del Mar. I'll take a little swing and I'll see if Baeza can get the job done. But for Scott, he's going to go with the horse to beat, no doubt about it, and that is Sovereignty. We'll see all of you back here on Friday next week on the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview.
Mind, I was able to think and process. And if I let him get back up, he's going to get back up. I was like, let me finish this right now. And I caught him with that left hook, and then I caught him again with that right hook just to make sure the job was done, because I was calculating his hands wasn't touching the ground and his knees weren't touching the ground, but I know he was still going down. To make sure he wasn't getting back up, I had to let those last 2 off, man.
Combat Sports Report. Only on SportsGrid.
He's just only 2,300 points behind. So even if he does win at Memphis, he's still going to be behind Scotty Scheffler in the points by 300. So why? I mean, I want Scotty Scheffler to show up in Memphis, but does he need to? If Rory's not showing up and the third place guy, even if he wins, isn't going to pass him?
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
What do you make of the season that Barkley had last year as he piled on the yards to get over 2,000, and what can that look like this year?
His year could have been much better with different circumstances here. So he was great. I assume he'll be great again. You want to take Jahmyr Gibbs? I don't have an issue with it, but, Barkley, yeah, you're going to lose the tush push.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Big Fish is the best player in the WNBA. She is running away with the MVP award. Why is that? Caitlin Clark, injured. Asia Wilson, not playing at Asia Wilson level, but it's more about the fact about what's around her has been an issue. So to me, Fish is almost like the MVP because everyone else has gone down in some way, shape, or form.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.